All right, and welcome back to the final installment here before the Oscar nominations are announced. This is going to be my final predictions for the year. So here we go. I guess we'll just go ahead and start at the bottom here with the short categories and work our way up. It's been a little over 4 months worth of predicting and trying to figure out stuff, and some delays and everything else going on, and fingers crossed it's going to be just 2 days from now. We'll be back here and be talking about what's in, what's out. Let's start with the live action short category. And my five here are An Orange from Jaffa, Dovecote, The Ice Cream Man, The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent, and The Masterpiece. I stuck with those five. I haven't done as big a deep dive into these short categories yet. I think we'll hear more about these as they after they're announced. Who's in, who's out, and we'll see which ones are more appreciated and which ones are more like, okay, this is one that not everybody was predicting and stuff like that. For the other possible contenders here, I just listed the other 10 that made the long list. And Anuja, The Compatriot, I'm Not a Robot, Room Taken. Those are ones I've heard some buzz on. At least some people are picking those. For documentary short, my five here are A Swim Lesson, Chasing Rue, I Am Ready Warden, Michaela's Voice, A Letter to the World, and Once Upon a Time in Ukraine. I did have The Only Girl in the Orchestra here for quite a while. I've taken that one out. I think Incident, Death by Numbers, Planet Walker are ones also that are in the mix here. Until He's Back is also one I've heard about. But I'm going here for those documentary shorts. Animated short, I'm going with The Bear Named Wojciech, Beautiful Men, Maybe Elephants, Origami, and Yuck. Those are my five. Wander to Wonder is one I know everyone has in, but I don't know. I feel like with some of these short categories, you have to kind of go your own way sometimes, and then you get the bragging rights if you're one of the only ones to pick it. Then A Crab in the Pool, Me, In the Shadow of the Cypress are a few others that I've heard some good things about. Getting into the tech categories now. Best Visual Effects is up next. I have Better Man, Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked in there. It is a lot of sequels, but we tend to see that sequels do show up here in the visual effects category. It's almost seemingly a lot of Marvel sequels make it in. So something like Deadpool and Wolverine, which is also one that was on the short list here, that's a possible one. I did have Alien Romulus for a while here, but after Better Man got in at BAFTA, and it did okay at the Visual Effects Society. Alien Romulus did not fare as well there, and some of these other ones did not. But like Wicked, for example, they'll always put in at least one Best Picture nominee, at least seemingly so. Now Dune Part 2 is also here, which I expect to be on the Best Picture list as well. But just given the popularity of Wicked, I can totally see the effects guild, or branch rather, still putting it in there, even if they have been, kind of looked at as like some lesser than effects. Otherwise, Twisters, Civil War, and Mufasa the Lion King are my other alternate possibilities here on that one. The Best Sound category, my five are A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Gladiator 2, and Wicked. And I feel okay with these five. You've got Blitz, Alien Romulus, The Wild Robot, Deadpool and Wolverine, and I forgot what the fifth one was. That was the other one that made the short list there, but I don't think it's going to get in. Blitz is one I'm kind of curious about. As I recall, that one did make BAFTA, so that could be just a BAFTA thing. I think Blitz will have one nomination when we get to the Oscars here, but I don't think it'll do as well as it did at BAFTA. I could be surprised, though, so we'll see about that. Deadpool and Wolverine maybe is one that could get in here. It did do okay at the Sound Guild, so it could surprise us. Makeup and hairstyling is next. My five are Beetlejuice, Emilia Perez, Nosferatu, The Substance, and Wicked. The other five that made the long list here, I just listed them all in this case. We've got A Different Man, which I think will be close. If Sebastian Stan or even Adam Pearson were more of a, I won't say guarantee, but if they were more of a factor in the acting races, I think it would really help the movie's chances. Then I think it could break in. Dune Part 2, I was really close to putting this one in, but I was like, I wasn't sure who to bump. Nosferatu seems to be, as a late film coming on and stuff, overperforming at BAFTA, at least in my estimation. I think it's one that will fit in here, but that's the one I would probably swap out for Dune Part 2, but we'll see. Waltzing with Brando was also one I was like, ooh, I could be really gambly here and really take that one, but it reminds me of, like, the man who sat on the park bench and shat himself, or whatever the name of that stupid title was. Because we did see a few years where movies like that would, wasn't it Man Called Ove also made the makeup list, or maybe I'm mistaking that for another one. But still, it's like we saw some of those ones make it in. Waltzing with Brando is not way too far off for comparing. I know it is Billy Zane with heavy prosthetics to look like Brando. It is a previous Academy Award winner, of course, in Brando. Appearance-wise, Billy Zane I don't think has ever been nominated. But I don't know. I just wasn't sure. Like, the Substance, we think, is one of the front runners in this category. I think Beetlejuice with its practical makeup and stuff, I think that's one that they'll still pick. Emilia Perez being a Best Picture nominee, and it's the one of the 3 Best Picture nominees I have in here. Wicked, being heavy with the makeup and stuff and everything. It's one of the first things I think of. I wouldn't actually be shocked if we see Wicked become the front runner in this category over The Substance over time. And then The Apprentice and Maria were also shortlisted here. Again, I think if their acting candidates were more secure, I think they'd stand a better shot. The Apprentice I actually did have getting in at BAFTA, but it couldn't get in there, even when both Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong were nominated. So that's not a great sign of strength for that movie. For original song, my 5 are Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late, El Mal from Emilia Perez, Mi Camino from Emilia Perez, The Journey from the 688, and Kiss the Sky from Wild Robot. I'm okay with these 5. I know a lot of people like either Like a Bird from Sing Sing, Will and Harper from Will and Harper Go West, or Compress Repress from Challengers. They kind of like those 3. I did go with the Elton John documentary just because I feel like with Elton John, he has been nominated a few times, or at least his songs have. And he did win here pretty recently, 5 years ago, with the Rocket Man song. So I think with that, I think I'm putting it in. I am reminded, too, of those documentaries that for a while were consistently nominated in this category as well. Up until I think one of them breached the voting rules or whatever, so his nomination was later disqualified. But yeah, lesser about that, and we'll move on to happier things here. For original score, my 5 here are Challengers, Conclave, Emilia Perez, The Brutalist, and The Wild Robot. I was not sure what to do with that 5th slot. I ended up going with Challengers because it did win the Globe for original score, which in the last 10 years or so, I believe I counted back 10 years, we've only seen 2 Globe winners for original score not make it in for the Oscar nomination. And actually, if we go back, I think it's 11 years, then we would have 3 with All Is Lost. That one won the Globe for score and then did not repeat at the Oscars. I'm trying to remember. I think First Man was one of them I looked at. That was one that didn't do it. And then there was one other one. I can't remember which one that was. Or maybe All Is Lost was the second one, and I did go back 11. But still, point is, it's actually not way too common. We could be overdue. We could be due for a score nominee to not show up here that is one that won at the Globes. That is, it's possible. For alternates here, I think Wicked is going to be really close. It could be just one of those spots that it just catches. Nosferatu was a nominee at BAFTA. That could break in. And then Blitz, it is Hans Zimmer. I had him in for quite a while. But I just kind of feel like a Blitz is going to be a one and done. And with Hans Zimmer, it was shortlisted at BAFTA. He didn't get in at BAFTA, I should say. So since he didn't get in there and Blitz did do better there at BAFTA than a lot of us are expecting it to do at the Oscars, then I really don't think it's going to repeat here, even though it is shortlisted. To the design categories now, Best Production Design. I've got Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, The Brutalist, and Wicked being my 5. I did drop Beetlejuice, which I had in there for a long time. I was like one of the last people predicting it. And I just had a little change of heart with that movie. I just don't know outside of makeup if it's a guarantee to get in anywhere else. I don't necessarily think costume design anymore, which we'll get to my predictions there here very shortly, but I just wasn't sure about that. I felt like Dune Part 2 was going to get in. I had dropped it, and I'm like, I feel like an idiot if I'm going to leave this one out. So yeah, and The Brutalist was also one I had taken out for a bit, and I had to put that one back in. I am nervous, though, about something like A Complete Unknown getting in. I know right off the top from watching the movie, I was like, yeah, the production design is actually really kind of a standout from the beginning. It's, again, one of the first things that you see is kind of the early 60s New York, and it does really have that nice place of scene and everything. You really do feel like you're there. Gladiator 2 with all the Roman times stuff and everything, that could very easily get in. Blitz is one I'm nervous of getting in here as well with the World War II style, but again, I'm just not sure how much the overall Academy is going to love Blitz. Costume design. My 5 here, though, are Blitz, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. So I did drop a few here. Like I said, Beetlejuice I had in for quite a while. But again, outside of makeup, which was the only nomination the original film got, even though that could have made it in for like production design, costume design, special effects, a few other categories there, they really only loved it in makeup. So I kind of see, unfortunately, history repeating itself here with this new Beetlejuice. It's also one that, yes, it did do pretty well here in the U.S. at the box office, but its BAFTA haul wasn't really all that mighty. It's been okay at the guilds. It hasn't been perfect at the guilds, but it's been all right. I just think, with this case, I felt comfortable dropping that one, even though it is Colleen Atwood, and Blitz, on the other hand, is Jacqueline Duran. Both of them are previous winners, and I just feel like Blitz is going to be more up the Academy's alley than something like Beetlejuice. But if that one does show up, I'm going to be like, damn it, I had it and I lost it. But I don't know. You got to, and with Conclave, I feel like one thing I will say at the end is I do have a feeling about something with Conclave. We'll get to that at the end there. Otherwise, Maria was one I predicted for a while. Once Angelina Jolie started falling out, though, I really didn't sense a lot of traction with that one. Gladiator 2, A Complete Unknown, and The Brutalist I've also listed here. Brutalist is one of those that, again, if the Academy really does like it, then I could see that one. I could see that one landing in a few of these categories. For film editing, my 5 here, this is an important category: A Complete Unknown, Anora, Conclave, Dune Part 2, and Emilia Perez. I did make a switch here. I had The Brutalist in for a long time, and I just kept looking back at the fact that, okay, it wasn't long listed at BAFTA, and the Ace Eddies left it out. That's just too many things for me to shake. You've got A Complete Unknown, which is on the uptick here, and I've actually seen a couple articles, a couple people that have testified to this. There is a worry that The Brutalist overall is a movie that maybe has not been seen by everyone. It hasn't gone super wide yet from A24. There's plenty of screeners out there. Did play at one or two of the fall film festivals and everything. But once I saw that on multiple reports, I was like, ooh, okay, maybe I should, reconsider it in one or two categories. And in this case, I did look at it and I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, and with it also not, getting in at SAG for the SAG Ensemble thing, that backed up the theory that it was an underseen movie. Not everyone in the different voting branches got to it, evidently, at SAG. Either that, or I think it really would have been an easy one to put in there. Or at least, if that was true, then I think Guy Pearce and Felicity Jones, I think, would have stood a much better shot at being individually nominated. Instead, it just seems like they name-checked Adrian Brody in Best Actor because he was arguably a frontrunner, in the same way that someone like a Leo has been checked a couple times in the past as well. Particularly The Revenant was the one I kept going to there. But as far as other contenders, Wicked, Challengers, and September 5 are also ones I have in here for film editing. But again, with A Complete Unknown kind of breaking late, and it's arguably been one of the biggest overperformers at the Guilds, at BAFTA, at SAG, I just feel like this one will arguably, again, overperform our original expectations once we get to it here. For cinematography, my 5 here, and this actually became kind of a kind of one I was a little worried about, but I've got Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Maria, Nosferatu, and The Brutalist being my 5. Conclave is one that could really very easily be swapped in there for something like Maria. I've heard some people argue something like Emilia Perez because it was not nominated by the Cinematographers Guild. It was a little strange. I don't know if there was a tie or what the deal was here, but we had 7 films nominated by the Cinematographers Guild, and Emilia Perez was not one of them. That being said, I think it's in. I think it's one that, it got the BAFTA nomination for its cinematography. It just feels like one that they'll still name check and everything. It's going to be a popular movie. I think, one of its early shots is a really nice shot with the zoom in on the mariachi band and everything. It's like I just think it's one that'll get in. So I did leave out Conclave. This is one of the few spots I think Conclave might fall short on Thursday morning. Nickel Boys, A Complete Unknown, and Wicked are also in there. Complete Unknown and Wicked did get in for Cinematographers Guild. The fact that Nickel Boys did not with 7 nominations really hurt that movie. It also was not one of the 10 films at PGA. So Nickel Boys, I think you'll see. But yeah, I have that one as a one and done as well. To the feature categories now. International features up first. I have Emilia Perez, Flo, I'm Still Here, Kneecap, and The Seed of the Sacred Fig getting in. Otherwise, here, I think... hang on, I might have... one of my options here might be one that I accidentally put here instead of the doc feature category. I'm going to triple check my math there on that. But we had Vermilio was one I considered a little bit. Girl with the Needle, Daome, which is also up for doc feature, and Universal Language were ones I also listed here. I'm going to triple check here because wasn't... oops, hang on. I wasn't on the right page. I just skipped past it here. Make sure I have it here because I think I accidentally put one movie in there that I wasn't supposed to. Oh no, it's in the right spot. I was like, How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. For some reason I thought that was in doc feature only, not international feature. So yeah, that's one some people picked early, but once Kneecap kind of overperformed at BAFTA and everything, I feel like that one was one I was already going to pick already, so I had moved out How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. But yeah, this one, we could see one or two surprises there. For doc feature, I've got Black Box Diaries, Daughters, No Other Land, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, and Sugarcane being my 5. Now, I think Black Box Diaries was not one I had in right away. That's one I just really heard nothing but good things about, so I'm like, okay, so I put that one in. Will and Harper, which is on Netflix, I lean away from that one too because of its popularity, because, generally if you have a more upbeat subject matter, which I believe Will and Harper is, with stars in it, which Will and Harper does, the Academy just tends to shy away from it between that, the Apollo documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, amongst a few others here in recent years. They just really do not like those popular subject matters. Daome, which I mentioned, is also up for international feature. I think with Flo getting the international feature and animated feature bids, I don't think they'll need to put another one in there for multiple spots between the feature categories, but we'll see. And then Porcelain War was one I've heard a couple people talk about as well as a possible spoiler in that category. Speaking of animated feature, Flo, yes, is one of mine. Then Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. This is the chalkiest of the categories for me, but I'm just really struggling to see something like Chicken for Linda or maybe Moana 2 or Despicable Me 4. I just don't think there's very much passion behind those movies when it comes to Oscar voting. Even though Moana 2, yes, is a $1 billion movie, we did see, Frozen 2 as a $1 billion+ movie also missed this category, so I wouldn't be shocked at all to see just Inside Out 2 make it from the Disney/Pixar animated entries there. Adapted screenplays up next. I've got A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing being my 5. I'm okay with these 5. I feel like they're probably the ones to get in. Wicked could spoil. Dune Part 2, possibly. The original, the first Dune did get in for screenplay. And then The Room Next Door are also... that's one with Almodovar. You always have to be careful with him. He could always strike in these screenplay categories. You never know. Original screenplay, I've got A Real Pain, Nora, Hard Truths, The Brutalist, and The Substance being my 5. Challengers could strike here. September 5, if it has a really good day. Again, it was one that did get in at PGA, so not totally dead yet. And All We Imagine Is Light was also one I put in here. I'm not as confident as I was before. At least I'm not. Maybe confidence for lack of a better term. I'm not as willing to say that something like All We Imagine Is Light is going to be the big surprise this year when we get to like the directing and picture categories. I don't quite see Kapeja coming back, especially since there were 6 slots at BAFTA and they couldn't pick her over like Denis Villeneuve, who also struggled at BAFTA the last time he had a Dune film. So that was like a big that's like a big stop sign to me. It could break into that screenplay category. We've seen international movies like Worst Person in the World break in this specific category, because I believe that one was also an original piece and not based off of pre-published material. And yeah, once that happened, I was like, I don't think that's quite going to happen here for the movie. But I'll list it just in case it does really surprise us. Okay, where'd I go? Supporting actress. The most intense category, I think, of the acting categories, I think. I have to go with Monica Barbaro, A Complete Unknown, Selena Gomez for Emilia Perez, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. That's going to be my 5. I looked at it. I know Jamie Lee Curtis is really lurking here. She got both the BAFTA and SAG nominations. The Last Showgirl is a late breaker. It is one that just has played in theaters here in the last couple weeks. It probably is going to be one of the last screeners that Academy members check out. Jamie Lee Curtis is very popular in the acting community. I'm well aware of all this stuff. And yet, this was one spot where I was like, okay, this is one spot where I'm like, you know what? I am going to feel absolutely fucking miserable on Thursday morning if Monica Barbaro, who I think is, again, she stole the show for me for the movie Complete Unknown. She absolutely stole the show. If she gets in and I don't predict it, I'm going to be absolutely miserable. I'm going to feel absolutely terrible because I think that is potentially a star-making role. It's, again, one that steals the whole package for me as far as the movie's concerned. And it's also, again, it's a movie that's breaking late and a movie that has overperformed at a lot of the various guilds. Got in for film at BAFTA. And even though it didn't make the sound category over there, it really otherwise listed in a lot of other categories that it really needed. It just, again, I get that sense like I did, or I shouldn't say like I did because I did not predict it. But when America Ferrera got in for Barbie, it was a movie that also had a couple other acting bids, at least potentially, even though Margot Robbie fell out. It just feels like one of those cases where I'm like, I don't know. I think it's a popular thing. She did get the nomination at SAG, wasn't longlisted at BAFTA. If I could see a potential where if the BAFTA longlist had come out after SAG, then Monica could have very easily been on there and possibly could have made the 6. I just think that with this case, I think it's one I've got to put in. I know it's kind of a hope prediction type deal, but again, I just can't abide. I can't abide it. I can't abide not putting her on the list, having her come up, and then having to eat crow for not predicting it. Yes, so yeah, that is true with Jamie Lee Curtis, though. That there's a lot of things pointing to the fact that she could get in, but again, I think with her too, one other thing, and I brought it up kind of early. After the SAG nomination, was this is an actress who was, been around the industry for a long, long time, and yet for years and years and years, she could never get even one Oscar nomination. And then finally, with a big movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was getting nominated for almost virtually every last category it could at the Oscars, then she had a real run, and then obviously went on to win. I also think, too, with her, if she were to get in, it would be a previous winner type deal, taking one of those slots. We've talked about that before. I think in this case, though, this isn't really an open category, though. It's not like Best Actor this year, where it's like, okay, you can get to 4 really quickly. It's just who's that 5th slot. Arguably, some people put supporting actor in the same vein. I'm close. I think it's close to that range. But, I'm thinking of like... what was the year Parallel Mothers for Penelope Cruz? Like, categories, when you have a competition in a category like that, I think that's when we see it. Best Supporting Actress, though, on the other hand, this category's overstuffed. And I just don't really feel that. Now, again, I could be dead wrong, and I could have to eat some crow anyways if she does get in on Thursday. But that's my piece on it. For Selena Gomez, getting the BAFTA nomination was a big thumbs up of support. I think, again, the movie's going to be a high priority for Oscar voters. And even though, yes, it was playing internationally kind of early with like September and October releases, and yes, it was on Netflix in, early November or late October, whenever it dropped. And it would be a first nomination for her. And all that. And I know this is something I've also, some people pointed out. And I do recognize it is true with my 5. All 5 of mine would be first-time nominees, and it's actually not very common that happens. Jamie Lee Curtis, throwing her in, of course, that's a previous nominee / winner, so that does kind of more support some of those long-standing stats. But you know what? It happens. Once in a while, you just get those cases where it's like the way it rolls up, you do get 5 nominees that are in there for the first time. It does happen. So otherwise, Felicity Jones, Margaret Qualley, Danielle Deadwyler, possibly even Ingenue Taylor Ellis, or Ellis Taylor, however she has it listed right now. Very possible for them to steal a slot as well. I would particularly be more wary about Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. Missing at SAG, though, and at Critics' Choice was kind of okay. And again, it did fall in line, too, with my my little the little articles I read with the possibility of Brutalist being one that not everyone was able to get to as far as voting and everything. So that kind of fell in line with that. For supporting actor, my 5 are Yor Borisov for Honora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. I did go with Jeremy Strong here. He's someone I think arguably has been very, very close to nominations in the past. I would argue something like what the hell was the name of it? I was just thinking of it. The one that oh Jesus Christ. The 60s one that he was just in. Oh Lord, Trial of the Chicago 7. I couldn't think of it. I would argue he was one that was in potential that year to get nominated. I think he's been close. He's been, someone who's been on TV quite a bit. He's been in quite a few movies. And I think with The Apprentice, he's basically gotten in just about everywhere. I did mention, Jamie Lee Curtis getting in for both SAG and BAFTA. Same thing with Jeremy Strong, even though his particular movie did do a little better at BAFTA long list-wise and stuff than Last Showgirl did. I do think that Jeremy Strong is one that could easily get in. My first alternate, though, is still Stanley Tucci for Conclave. And I do think Conclave, yes, it is kind of one of those movies that I'm starting to get the sense now, and we'll talk probably more about this when we get to Best Picture, but maybe I'm the only one feeling this way. Is Conclave kind of starting to turn a corner now to where it feels like more of a front-runner? Maybe. I feel like it can win PGA, as an example. I think it could really start with a win there. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the favorite at Critics' Choice there in early February, but for now, I think Tucci, again, he's a past nominee. They could go with one in this slot. As it stands right now, Edward Norton is also a past nominee, so he kind of fills that slot. And again, we'll talk about it here in a minute with Best Actress, but that whole 5 first-time nominees thing, you could say it's coming back for sure in that category. But yeah, otherwise, Clarence Macklin, Sing Sing was a one. I just saw it over the weekend here. I got some time over the weekend, long weekend to see it. I'll talk more about that one and A Real Pain. Both of those I was able to see over the weekend, so I'll probably save that for the very end here. But Clarence Macklin, once I saw the movie, I'm like, oh, I was kind of close to putting him in instead of Jeremy Strong, actually. And while Sing Sing, yes, he did get the nomination at BAFTA as well, and he got in at Critics' Choice. He was missing at SAG, missing at the Globes. Sing Sing is also one that did not get in at PGA, so it feels like that one is going to be very hit and miss. So I didn't want to press that one too much and put it in for way too many things. Denzel for Gladiator 2, he felt like one that was going to get in, especially with the Globe and the Critics' Choice nominations. But once he missed at SAG, and then we knew, even though he was longlisted at BAFTA, we knew he wasn't going to get in there. It did feel like the hope was kind of draining out of that possible nomination. So speaking of 5 first-time nominees, Best Actress, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison for Honora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. That's 5 first-time nominees. Yeah, so it does feel a little weird that, I am putting 5 first-timers in there in the 2 female acting categories, but with the Best Actress thing, again, Mikey's pretty good. Demi Moore, we feel really confident about. Carla Sofia Gascon, yep, she's in everywhere. Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, she's been in everywhere. She is a past nominee, sorry. She is not a first-time nominee, excuse me. She got in for Harriet, so yeah, that's not quite true. I forgot that she got in for Harriet, because that also kind of sparked the second wave of the Oscars So White thing. I did, for whatever reason, I mind-gapped that. But anyways, the Fernanda Torres thing, I'm feeling pretty good about it, though. I know it is, again, we talked about it quite a bit here in the last few weeks, but it is a long-standing stat that, yes, every Globe winner for Best Actress Drama does go on to be nominated at the Oscars if you're a solo winner. And we've been through that, so I don't think I have to go through that whole history thing again. But, yeah, it's also a movie that is likely to show up for International Feature. It could fall out. I wouldn't actually be shocked if it does fall out of one of the 5. But it's been doing pretty well getting in at other spots like BAFTA and everything, so I think Fernanda is one that will be in. Otherwise, you've got Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths that could strike. Potentially, she is a past nominee, but Hard Truths, I'm not sure, even though I've got it in for screenplay, I'm not sure if it's like a guarantee that it's one, again, that a lot of voters have seen actively. BAFTA didn't really love it that much, so yeah. Otherwise, Angelina Jolie for Maria is one that could possibly break back in, but we'll see. And then Pam Anderson for the Last Showgirl. Again, if it is one that they saw late and they really did really like it, then Pamela Anderson could strike in that category. We will see. For Best Actor, my 5 are Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig for Queer, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, and Ralph Fiennes for Conclave. I couldn't do the Sebastian Stan Apprentice nomination after BAFTA. I couldn't do it. I'd taken him in, put him back out, taken him in. I was really back and forth on it. But where I ultimately landed on no, he's not going to get a nomination, is the fact that he is, again, going up against himself with a different man. Both are unarguably in the best actor race. Not, you can't argue one of them is a supporting role. And the only other thing would be if a different man had missed at the Golden Globes, like if it had just been a complete non-factor the rest of the year, and he obviously went on to win too. If it hadn't been for that, then I think Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, if everything had kind of enveloped around him as far as like this is the performance he's going to campaign for and stuff, then I think yes. Then I think I would have taken him over Daniel Craig. And the only other thing, though, that did get me thinking, and after seeing the movie A Real Pain with Jesse Eisenberg, because I had him predicted for a couple minutes there in, late December, early January, somewhere in there. What if Craig and Sebastian Stan end up splitting votes and Jesse Eisenberg does get in? It is a movie that, again, I think the acting community will really appreciate. It's basically an actor's movie. The screenplay is still really good in it, too, by Jesse Eisenberg. And he will be nominated by the writers, so I think that's a potential reason why he wouldn't get in here, is because he's already going to be recognized, at least with a nomination for the writing of the movie. But, and if I remember correctly, he's also a producer on it, is he not? I'll fact-check myself here, because I think he's a producer on it, too. Yes, him, Emma Stone, too, is a noted producer on it, so yeah. I do think, because I think it is going to get in for Best Picture. It did get a PGA nomination. That was really big for it. So you could argue, the Academy is aware of that, particularly the acting branch, because you do see like Robert De Niro falling out of the Best Actor conversation for stuff like The Irishman, as an example. But I just have that tiny little theory that maybe with Daniel Craig and Sebastian Stan, if they do end up splitting votes, then I think that does leave it open for Jesse Eisenberg to strike back in there and get that 5th slot. But I'm not confident enough to pull the string on that one. For the directing category, my 5, alphabetically by the director, they might announce it a different way on the morning of, Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez, Sean Baker for Honora, Edward Berger for Conclave, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, and Coralie Fairjet for The Substance. That's my 5. I feel okay with this 5. It's always kind of a squeaker in the director race because you never know that outside factor. That branch can be very, very, very picky and really can surprise us. But Payal Kapadia, again, if she'd gotten more than just the Globe nomination, I think we'd be, more likely to pick her over Coralie, or possibly kicking out... who would they kick out here? Possibly Edward Berger. He was one that wasn't nominated for... All Quiet on the Western Front. That is possible. But Conclave, I think, is in a better spot right now than something like All Quiet on the Western Front was 2-3 years ago. Arguably, it is one that still could win Best Picture. All Quiet on the Western Front, we knew was probably going to play for Best Picture and get nominated, but it wasn't arguably at any point like a front runner to take down Everything Everywhere All at Once or like any of those. So... Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys. I've got him listed here just in case. He was a first-time director nominee at DGA, but I don't sense that Nickel Boys is really like the most popular movie at the Oscars. James Mangold for Complete Unknown. He did get that 5th DGA slot over Coralie, but I think as much as the Academy is going to like this movie and it could overperform, I've got it down for 7 total nominations. I don't think this makes number 8. And then Denis Villeneuve did get that 5th slot, or 6th spot, at BAFTA for Dune Part 2. And I don't know, I just feel like, again, we talked a little bit about that theory of, if this is the Two Towers to the original Dune's Fellowship of the Ring, what does that mean nominations-wise for Dune Part 2? And Denis also was left off the list there for the first Dune, so I think as crowded as this race is, I think he can just miss. But we'll see. We'll see. And then for Best Picture, my 10 are A Complete Unknown, A Real Pain, Anora, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Sing Sing, The Brutalist, The Substance, and Wicked. I feel like those are the popular 10. Most everyone I've seen is going with these 10. Your other spoilers are potentially Nickel Boy, September 5, and All We Imagine Is Light. Obviously, All We Imagine Is Light has to get that director slot, I think, to get it for Best Picture, but unless they really do want to go weird and they really want to go with the one of those director-only nominations, potentially, or getting director and then missing picture. But I don't know. I still feel pretty good about these 10. Yeah, I haven't really heard a lot of other back talk as far as like what else could be nominated here. So there you go. So as far as multiple nominees go, I actually double-checked this. I have 15 films getting multiple nominations this year. That was actually matching what we had last year, which has me a little nervous because last year felt like one that was a little low in that respect. Usually it's in like the mid-teens, like usually, let's look at like 2022 as an example here. So this was the year of Everything Everywhere All at Once. That one was at 17, if I'm counting correctly here. Or hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 16? I think I'm miscounting here. Okay, I got 15 the third time. So that actually matches the last 2 years. Let's go to 2021. That one I think had more. That one had like 22 if I'm counting right. That's quite a bit more. Yeah, so your high, mid to high teens I think is what we've been. The COVID year, we had actually, I think we had more that year, didn't we? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. I've got 18 on that one, so yeah. And then one more, we'll go 2019. That one I remember being pretty consolidated. There were a few multiple nominations, but a lot of them were in that 6+ range. 17. We had 17 that year. So we've seen that kind of track, haven't we? So 2 years in a row we've had 15 movies get multiple nominations. I've got that number again here. I've got Emilia Perez leading the pack. I've still got it down for that 14 nomination performance. Now, as we might recall, it did get 11 nominations at the Golden Globes, which tied a major record there. So I think it's one that, yes, will be up for that. At worst, I can see it getting like 11 or 12. So I think regardless, even if I'm off by a couple spots here, I think it will be the most nominated movie on Oscars morning. Conclave, though, I have in for 10. So I put it in last second for like costume design. I get the sense, again, this is one that feels like it could be on a turn here where it could win PGA. I don't think it can quite win DGA. I think Brady Corbett maybe doesn't have that category locked up, but he certainly feels more competitive, or I shouldn't say more competitive. He feels more solid in that category to be the winner and stuff. That being said, I think Conclave, though, it can clean up actually quite a few of those tech categories and then get the 2 acting categories, screenplay, picture, director, and get to 10. I don't, other than like Stanley Tucci and cinematography, I don't see it getting above 12, but that's my bid there. I've got The Brutalist and Wicked tied for third most at 8 apiece. Brutalist could do better, but again, when I'm hearing all this stuff about it being supposedly underseen, and then it also not making it in for SAG Ensemble, missing quite a few of its things for like the editing nomination, for example, that just has me a little worried that it, I have it, right now as like a front runner for Best Picture, but I might switch to Conclave on the morning of the Oscars. We will see. Wicked, yeah, I think 8's a pretty solid number for that movie. It's got the 2 acting categories, we think. It's got picture, we think. The rest of them will come from the tech categories, but I think it'll do fairly well in those. I've got Dune Part 2 and A Complete Unknown both getting 7 nominations. So Dune Part 2, I don't quite have it getting the less than half nominations that, say, Fellowship of the Ring versus Two Towers had. But then again, all year I have not been saying that this is a direct comparison. So that feels okay to me. Dune Part 2 could overperform. It could get to 8 or 9, possibly break in for 10 and match the original. We will see. Complete Unknown, though, I've got it for 7. I feel like it's okay at 7. I feel like maybe if Monica Barbaro falls out, it's still at 6. That's still a really good number for that movie. I think it's in that 6 to 8 range. Anora, I've got down for 6. I really don't see that one getting above that. And if Yora somehow misses for supporting actor or something, then it would land on 5. Or maybe it misses in editing. I don't know. But I feel like it's okay in that category. The Substance I have down for 5. I feel like that one will do fairly well. As far as its traction for like winning a lot of Oscars, we will see. If it really gets on a tear and all of a sudden is a threat to win like original screenplay because it's the most original story or whatever, if it's viewed that way, okay, maybe it could win there, or maybe it could win the makeup category, but we will see. I've got it at 5. Nosferatu, I've got it at 4. It's, I think, the most nominated film to not be a Best Picture nominee this year. I think it's going to do pretty well in those tech categories. I don't see it topping. I don't see it quite getting to the 5 nominations it had at BAFTA. Even though Nosferatu is up for score here at the Oscars, it is shortlisted there. I don't think the Academy is quite going to go for it in that category. Then I've got A Real Pain, Wild Robot, and Sing Sing all at 3 nominations apiece. I think in that case it is one where A Real Pain and Sing Sing, it's kind of that classical like 3 nominations type deal. It gets screenplay, an acting prize, and Best Picture as far as nominations go. So yeah, I think that's fairly safe for that. Wild Robot will get a couple music bids and then animated feature. And then I'm Still Here, Flow, and Gladiator 2 I have all getting 2 nominations, which feels a little low to me. Let's see, when we look at like 2019, we had 5 movies get 2 nominations. We had in 2021, or sorry, 2020, the year of COVID, we had 8 films get 2 nominations. Yeah, if I put Beetlejuice in for a couple, then yeah, that would also be one that would be listed here, but I didn't do that. I had 5. We had 5 in 2021, and then we had in the last couple times around, we only had 2 in 2022, and then we only had, we did have 5 last year that only got the 2 nominations, so I don't know if I'd put in Beetlejuice for maybe one more category, then maybe that could have been one that gets 2 nominations, or maybe 3. But I don't know. I think in this case, I'm comfortable with what I have. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. So I guess some quick thoughts, though, really quick on. I'll start with Real Pain. That's the one I saw first. I ended up really liking this movie. I related to it quite a bit. I had just this past year, I had taken a trip to Europe as well with a group of people, and they were all like people I didn't know. So I did relate to that part of the movie as well. And yeah, the acting is quite solid in this movie. I mean, Eisenberg, I think he does just as good a job as Kieran Culkin does. Now, Kieran Culkin is very much a Spitfire, kind of wild spirit type of performance. And I'm sure it's a performance that many actors like would love to do, where it's like he doesn't care what the consequences are. He plays the role consequence free. He's really just out there to just kind of be free and make choices. And you're always afraid as a viewer of the movie. You're always afraid he's going to do something like really out of character. He's going to make a scene. He's going to do something. I love that he was able to get that freedom as an actor and show it here. And he does do a really good job with the role and everything. I really liked his work there. And yeah, Eisenberg, I feel like, though, he's got some of the, both of them have some weighty scenes, some emotional scenes in there. Eisenberg, I thought, though, there's one particular scene where the group's at dinner. God, that scene was great. So well acted. I really, really liked his acting there. One of his better performances of late, for sure. I really, really liked what he did there. And yeah, I think overall, he does just as good a job as Kieran Culkin did. So part of me, wanted to throw him in last second as a Best Actor nominee, but I just didn't have the cojones to do it. Otherwise, the rest of the movie, the screenplay was really, really solid, really nice stuff. It feels like Eisenberg was kind of working through some stuff with the screenplay and stuff, talking a lot about loss and guilt and reconnecting with past family members, maybe people you haven't seen in a while and stuff. A lot of that stuff is there, and it's really stuff that I feel is emotionally truthful for a lot of people and is very relatable for a lot of people as well. Yeah, the only thing I did feel like it was a little light. This is actually one I'm usually complaining about movies being too long. This is one I actually could have used like maybe another 5 to 6 minutes. Actually, would have been nice here. I do feel like the ending of the movie felt a little bit to be desired. There was a little bit, it was a little abrupt. The people I was watching the movie with, we all just kind of, after it was over, like, oh, it's over, kind of deal. And it's like, it felt like there were maybe 1 or 2 things kind of left hanging in the air that didn't really add up to much. Like, there's a scene very early on with the Kieran Culkin character where he and Eisenberg just walk into the hotel room and he asks for his phone because he says mine doesn't play music, which feels like a very flimsy excuse. And it did feel like, okay, part of me was afraid that like something was going to happen with his character at the end where he was like going to stay in Poland or maybe do something more drastic. Because once we hear more of his character's backstory, we're like, oh no, he might do something really bad. to himself or something. But it without spoiling anything, there really wasn't a lot of resolution with that. There wasn't like a big, key thing that happened at the end there where it kind of circled around to it. So yeah, that was something that just kind of stuck out to me. Otherwise, I don't know. I feel like the movie kind of, for filler, kind of has those moments with the other members of like the travel group and stuff. And again, a lot of that stuff, it feels like they do build up a few of those characters where they're gonna, maybe play in later on, and where maybe they'll have, just a little sit down with one of the two characters, and they'll, make a big impact on them. And we don't really get that. They kind of just, as it happens in the story, they're with them until they're not. And then once they're not, it doesn't really, you don't really get a lot of resolution with those other characters. They're just kind of there to be, part of the group they're with, and it doesn't really add up to much else. And again, this is another spot where even like a little 2-minute dialogue scene between, say, the character that was from Africa originally, and who'd been through the genocide and stuff, or had lived through it, or whatever the full story was with him. Like, he felt like one. It's like there's going to be a crucial scene where he comes to roost, with these characters, where something, he's going to say something or do something that's going to impact the other characters, and it's not really explicitly done. It's kind of arguably left up for debate about what happens and stuff, and everything. Some of that stuff maybe did happen off screen, and it's implied that, they did say or do something. But I don't know. I just felt like it was a case where, yeah, it was maybe left a little bit desired there, but I don't know. That being said, I still like that it is kind of a quick-paced movie. It's not, doesn't totally dwell on some stuff. And some of the stuff when they actually get on like the tour and everything, when they do some of the stuff that's related to Poland directly, and seeing like the concentration camp and stuff, even the as funny as the movie can be and as humorous as it can be, it doesn't forget that there is still some more dramatic material in there. So I felt like they did a good job, and Eisenberg as a director did a pretty good job with this too. So I really don't have way too many complaints with it. It was just kind of arguably one time where I wanted a little more to the runtime, but yeah. Rating wise, I guess I haven't thought about it. Is this more of a 9 or a 10? I guess very high 9, I would say. Very close to a 10 out of 10 for me, but a 9 out of 10. And then Sing Sing. Sing Sing was the last one I saw. I saw this Sunday night. And yeah, this one, I felt like, again, I come from a background where I did do some theater stuff in high school, and I took a class or two in college. So the theater environment and stuff is still something where it's like, I don't, it's not necessarily like my home, so to speak, for, a lot of theater kids, so to speak. Then the theater group is kind of their home. It's one of their biggest friendship groups through high school, through college, sometimes beyond college, and onwards. But so yeah, the community feeling to it, to me, and the ensemble work in that movie was really, really nice. Just really, really a pleasant experience to watch the movie in that way. Like Paul Raci shows up, and I'd forgotten he was in it, and I'm like, oh yeah, he needs to be in more stuff, because he was absolutely great in Sound of Metal. And we really, I don't think I've seen him in anything since. So it's like, damn, we had to wait 4 or 5 years, but it's like, yep, here he is again. And he's still good in this too. The whole ensemble there of the inmates that are part of the theater group, all of them are really great. They all get at least one little moment here or there to shine. Obviously, Colman Domingo and Clarence Macklin are two of the more bigger characters in it, and both of them are excellent in the movie. I mean, Colman really does do a great job here. This is one of his lead role. I didn't quite get to the movie he did last year, where he played the civil rights leader and stuff. But yeah, other than that, I haven't really seen him in many other like lead roles or anything. But here, yeah, he does show. Yeah, he's definitely got it in him. Clarence Macklin, though, also really great. Really a different dynamic than the Colman Domingo character. You can kind of see the alpha versus the other alpha, kind of stuff there, and the clash that is coming. It's like those moments do really work. I like that the score was pretty light and impactful when it came in and stuff. Yeah, and I think the movie overall, just the attitude it has toward rehabilitation and stuff, was really, really appreciative, I think, because, especially... I would actually not be shocked. Obviously, it's a little late now, but with the attitude of some political leaders nowadays being more like lock everything up, lock everybody up, and everything, the movie does have that alternative view where it's like, no, rehabilitation is possible with a lot of people, and the movie does show quite a few of those people and stuff. And I think the movie does do a really good job of showing that. Yeah, some of these people are just put in really shitty situations when they're born. They're raised in that environment. They kind of graduate into becoming a criminal, and then once, if they get sent to prison and everything, once they find something in prison where it's like something like this, like a theater group, or if it's, you know, some other rehabilitation centers and stuff that we see utilized in prisons with book reading and with different arts and crafts stuff and everything. That is some of the other stuff that I've heard about over the years. It's like rehabilitation is really a serious subject matter that I think sometimes gets underappreciated, I think. So it was a really nice movie that kind of had that attitude toward it. I really liked that it wasn't afraid to shy away from it and everything. It didn't, you know, we don't get like a criminal that gets in the theater group that all of a sudden like starts threatening to kill people or anything, or, you know, starts, you know, acting like the big buffo, you know, stereotypical prisoner that's like going to beat everybody up and everything. We don't really get that. We do see people that really have been through some stuff. They've done things that, you know, whether the characters claim they're innocent or not, there are things that they were convicted of. And the movie, again, really does do a nice job of you know, showing these characters and differentiating them and everything. And yeah, you do feel like it was a really nice ensemble. It is kind of too bad that the movie didn't get in for SAG Ensemble nomination, but yeah, that one, I think I'm going to go 10 out of 10 on that one. It's like a lighter 10 out of 10. I did like it better than A Real Pain. I do feel like with this one, the movie really, I don't think I had many like major complaints with it. If anything, the third act might have felt a little rushed. I felt like the first two acts were more, the timing and everything, the pace through the first two acts was a little stronger. The third act kind of felt like we kind of jumped to the resolution, arguably a little quick, but again, I don't know how you would, you know, flesh it out a little more. If anything, you know, there was a character that's kind of introduced in the third act that plays a major role and kind of gets the group back together after a little tumultuous moment. A moment like that where it's like, if we had seen that character maybe a little earlier, you know, and seen, okay, this is the full impact of this, I think that could have been arguably even more emotional moment than it was in the movie for some of the viewers, my opinion at least. But yeah, I guess I don't really have too many other complaints. Solid script, really solid performances, well put together movie, entertaining, doesn't overstay its welcome, and doesn't feel like you could have cut too much off or add more on. Yeah, I feel like this is one. This is one that I've really enjoyed. So yeah, then we have The Substance and The Brutalist. This is the only two I haven't seen yet. Brutalist hasn't opened wide enough to where I can see it. And Substance, I just haven't quite had time for it. I don't think I'm going to get to it between now and Thursday. So unless, I don't know, I really don't think I am going to have time for it. But yeah, I'll try to, again, I try to see everything, even if it's after the nominations are out. I do try to do that. Brutalist, I almost for sure will be playing here in my local area here shortly. So I'd imagine it at worst another week or two before that one comes in. But all right, that's my final thoughts. So again, once we get to nominations morning, we'll be here. We'll be talking about what's in, what's out, what we got right, what we got wrong. Hopefully not too much wrong, but you know, I've seen, you know, one thing that I have seen is a few of the other people I've seen on YouTube that do predict sometimes, and I'm not going to name drop anybody. I'm not going to call anybody out. But once in a while I do get, and this, by the way, this goes double, if not triple, for some of the Oscar prognosticators and some of the Oscar, you know, the critics that predict Oscars and stuff. Sometimes it's just too clinical of a pick. It just feels like they're just, you know, too statistically minded, and really it comes off as cold when they're announcing who's in, who's out on their predictions list and stuff. I try to avoid that when I can. I don't want to obviously, you know, only predict the stuff that I really like, because obviously every once in a while, yes, you do see a couple performances here and there where you're like, I just don't get it, but it's going to get in. You know, you get those every year. But in this case, I did feel like with a couple of mine, it's like, I just got that sense where it's like, again, particularly the Monica Barbaro thing is the first one I'm thinking of, but yeah, it just feels like if I predict it and it gets in, cool. If I don't predict it and it gets in, I'm going to feel just lousy. I'm going to feel like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I knew it was going to happen, and yet I couldn't pull the trigger on it. So, yeah. And again, that supporting actress category is absolutely bonkers this year. Again, if you're predicting that one, don't be ashamed. I'm not predicting that one trying to get the 5 out of 5. I'm just putting in the 5 that I think make the most sense, that leave the impression, that feel like, okay, they're probably the ones that get nominated based on performances, based on a few other things too, as far as like how the movie's doing overall, stuff like that. So I try not to, again, get too clinical with some of the stuff. But again, sometimes with like Conclave, putting that in for like production design, costume design, even though it's a, more contemporary movie, which those movies typically do struggle in that category, or particularly both those categories, then we'll see. But, yep. All right. I think that's all I got for now. We will be here Thursday morning, hopefully with good news.